Have you ever wondered about Africa? What comes to mind? For many, it's a collage of savannas, pyramids, and perhaps news headlines. But Africa is so much more. It's a continent of over 1 billion stories, a vibrant mosaic of cultures, histories, and futures, stretching across 54 countries. Today, let's journey beyond the clichés and discover the real Africa, a continent that is not just rising, but has always been a cradle of innovation, resilience, and profound human connection. Our story begins where all human stories begin, right here in Africa. It's scientific evidence from fossil discoveries in places like Ethiopia's Afar Triangle and South Africa's cradle of humankind points to Africa as the birthplace of our species, Homo sapiens. For tens of thousands of years, our earliest ancestors lived, innovated, and thrived on this continent. They developed tools, created the world's first art on cave walls, and formed complex societies. It was from Africa that humanity embarked on its incredible journey to populate the entire globe. This isn't just African history, it's everyone's history. The very roots of our shared human family tree are planted deep in African soil. Long before the Parthenon was built in Athens or the Colosseum rose in Rome, great civilizations were flourishing across Africa. Think of ancient Egypt, or Kemet as its people called it. For over 3,000 years. This civilization along the Nile River pioneered advancements in mathematics, medicine, architecture, and writing. The pyramids of Giza, feats of engineering that still baffle us today, are a testament to their genius. But Egypt wasn't alone. Further south, along the same Nile, lay the powerful kingdom of Kush, in what is now Sudan. The Kushites were masters of ironwork, built over 200 of their own pyramids, and at one point even conquered and ruled Egypt as the 25th dynasty. Imagine that, a sub-Saharan African empire ruling one of the ancient world's superpowers. Yet, how many of us learned about the Black Pharaohs of Kush in school? Their story is a crucial, often overlooked chapter in ancient history. And the story doesn't stop there. In West Africa, the Empire of Mali emerged in the 13th century, becoming one of the wealthiest empires on earth. Its riches came from vast gold and salt mines. The legendary emperor Mansa Musa was so wealthy that his pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324 literally changed the economy of the regions he passed through. He distributed so much gold in Cairo that its value dropped for over a decade. He wasn't just rich. He was a patron of learning, transforming cities like Timbuktu into world-renowned centers for education, with a university that predates Harvard by centuries and libraries filled with manuscripts on astronomy, law, and philosophy. Meanwhile, in southern Africa, the Great Zimbabwe was a marvel. This magnificent stone city, built between the 11th and 15th centuries, was the capital of a prosperous trading empire. Its massive, mortarless stone walls stand today as a silent monument to the architectural and political sophistication of its people. These are not isolated examples. They are part of a vast network of kingdoms and city-states. From the Aksumite Empire in Ethiopia to the Swahili coast city-states that were interconnected through trade and culture long before European ships arrived. The arrival of Europeans from the 15th century onward marked a devastating turning point. The transatlantic slave trade inflicted a wound on the continent that is impossible to overstate. Millions of Africans were forcibly taken from their homes, their families, and their cultures, shipped across the ocean in horrific conditions to fuel the economies of the Americas. This brutal trade lasted for over 400 years, robbing the continent of its people and creating deep-seated trauma that echoes to this day. Following the slave trade came the scramble for Africa in the late 19th century. In a matter of decades, European powers carved up the entire continent among themselves, drawing arbitrary lines on a map that ignored existing ethnic, linguistic, and political boundaries. This colonial period was marked by exploitation of resources, forced labor, and the suppression of local cultures and governance. African peoples were treated as subjects in their own land. But the spirit of a people cannot be extinguished. From the very beginning of colonial rule, resistance simmered. It took many forms: armed uprisings, intellectual movements, and political organizing. Leaders like Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, Jomo Kenyatta in Kenya, and Patrice Lumumba in Congo emerged, galvanizing their people with a powerful vision of freedom and self-determination. The mid-20th century saw a wave of independence sweep across the continent. Ghana's independence in 1957 was a watershed moment, inspiring a domino effect. One by one, nations threw off the shackles of colonial rule. But independence was not a magic wand. The newly formed countries faced immense challenges: the legacy of those arbitrary borders, economies designed for colonial extraction, and a lack of trained professionals. The path has been fraught with difficulties, including political instability and conflict. But the journey towards true sovereignty and self-sufficiency has been one of incredible resilience. Now, let's fast forward to the Africa of today. Forget the outdated images of a continent defined by poverty and strife. The 21st century is Africa's century. It's the youngest continent in the world, with over 60% of its population under the age of 25. This isn't just a demographic statistic. It's a wellspring of energy, creativity, and potential. This youthful dynamism is fueling a tech revolution. From the bustling tech hubs of Nairobi's Silicon Savannah to Lagos, Accra, and Cape Town, African innovators are developing homegrown solutions to local and global problems. Think of mobile money services like M-Pesa, which started in Kenya and transformed banking for millions who never had a bank account. Or consider the startups using drones to deliver medical supplies to remote villages. This is not about Africa catching up. It's about Africa leading the way with leapfrog innovations. And the culture. African creativity is exploding onto the global stage. Nollywood Nigeria's film industry is the second largest in the world by volume, producing movies that are watched by millions across the continent and the diaspora. Afrobeats artists like Burna Boy, Wizkid, and Thames are topping global charts and selling out stadiums worldwide. Their music is a vibrant fusion of traditional rhythms and modern sounds, telling African stories to a global audience. African fashion designers are gracing the runways of Paris and New York, bringing with them bold prints and sustainable practices. Authors from Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie to Ngugi wa Thiong'o are winning international literary awards, offering nuanced and powerful perspectives that challenge and enrich our understanding of the world. Of course, the continent still faces significant challenges. Poverty, governance issues, climate change, and healthcare disparities are real hurdles. But to focus only on these problems is to miss the bigger picture. It's to miss the story of progress, the relentless spirit of optimism, and the incredible diversity that defines modern Africa. From the bustling markets of Marrakesh to the serene beauty of the Okavango Delta, from the ancient rock-hewn churches of Lalibela to the futuristic skyline of Johannesburg, Africa is a continent of staggering diversity. It's home to over 2,000 languages, countless ethnic groups, and every imaginable landscape. There is no single African story. There are billions of them, unfolding every single day. The story of Africa is a story of origins and futures, of ancient empires and modern megacities, of heartbreaking struggle and indomitable joy. It's the story of humanity itself, in all its complexity and beauty. So the next time you think of Africa, I hope you'll think of this: a continent not to be pitied or saved, but to be admired, engaged with, and learned from. A continent of innovators, artists, entrepreneurs, and dreamers who are not just part of the global story, they are shaping its future. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If this changed your perspective even a little, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world. See you next time.